A few weeks ago, I watched a beauty controversy unfold online, and I told myself that I was not going to make a video about it, okay? But it kept finding me. And it showed up in my timeline, it showed up in my suggested content, and even eventually my own thoughts at random hours. And somewhere around the fourth or fifth time, I found myself thinking about it, and I realized something. This was never about blush. Here's what happened quickly for anyone who missed it. Makeup artist Patrick Ta launched a new product line, and he trademarked the phrase transition blush, or he's attempted to trademark it, okay? And the internet responded the way that it always does. Reaction videos, polarized comment sections, competing timelines of who did what first. On the surface, it looked like a debate about ownership, okay? Did he invent a technique?
If you are a blush baddie or just bad at blending your blush, I created Transition Blush to give you that seamless, blurred blush application every single time.
Did someone else actually popularize it first? Can you even trademark language tied to a makeup application method? But the longer I sat with it, the more I became more convinced that we were actually asking the wrong question. Most of this conversation centers around Ngozi Esther Edeme, aka Painted by Esther, whose signature blush technique has gained widespread attention through social media, particularly after Esther's work was showcased on Love Island USA's Olandria Carthen. And here is what is important. Esther has never claimed she invented this technique.
Doing something and honing something. Nobody can say, I've actually never one time said I started anything. You cannot find me a singular tweet, proof, anything that I have ever said I started this. That's silly. I'm an artist, and I come from my goal is to constantly reference artists like Kevin Aquan and Danessa and Pat, and how they move with grace and how they move with intention and intentionality.
She has been very transparent that her approach was inspired by the legendary makeup artist Kevin Aquan and others before him, okay? She has never claimed invention, but she is claiming influence, and those are not the same thing. Creative work is rarely created in a vacuum. Artists build on each other all of the time. Techniques evolve through reinterpretation. The real question was never, did she invent this? It is whether she actually has played a key role in reintroducing a technique to a new generation in a way specifically that it's never been shown. And to most people watching, the answer was obvious, okay? What was more revealing than the disagreement itself was how people argued about it. Over and over, I saw Patrick Ta positioned as the obvious authority, a bigger brand, celebrity clientele, and an established product line, okay? And Esther, I saw that she kept getting reduced again and again to just a TikTok influencer.
Patrick Ta has spoken, and I hear the discourse online. And let me just tell you, I don't get it. This makeup artist has been using a transitional blush under her eyes for a light, bright under eye. And Patrick Ta has too. Just because someone got famous on TikTok doing a technique does not mean another artist can't do it too.
That language does more harm than people actually realize, because the second someone gets called just an influencer instead of a professional, a master craftswoman, okay, the entire conversation shifts. Expertise quietly becomes synonymous with popularity. Contribution becomes trend participation. Never mind the years of study. Never mind the hours of work or the fact that she spent hours with existing clientele before an algorithm ever noticed. In our culture, visibility gets mistaken for legitimacy constantly when they are not the same thing. And a bigger audience doesn't automatically mean that you have more expertise. A recognizable brand is not the same as contribution. We live in a culture where social proof shapes how people perceive your value and your work. It doesn't solely consider the value of the work itself. And this is not unique to beauty. We see it in business. Some founders get called visionaries, while others, guess what? They have the same idea and can't even get a meeting. We see it in academia, where certain names get cited endlessly, while the people who actually did the early thinking, they disappear from the footnotes, okay? We see it in medicine, where for decades, Black women's pain has been documented, okay, as dismissed or minimized during pregnancy and childbirth, okay? And that's not just a healthcare issue, okay? That's a credibility issue. Whose testimony gets treated as trustworthy? When someone says something is wrong, what determines whether they are actually believed? Oftentimes, it is not expertise. It is actually perceived proximity to power. This is why these conversations get so emotionally loud. People aren't just arguing about the controversy in front of them. Really, what's happening is that they're actually reacting to a pattern that they have watched, they have felt, or experienced their entire lives. Who gets cited? Who gets believed? Who gets invited in? Who gets remembered? Who gets to define what is valuable? These are all questions of legitimacy, and legitimacy might be one of the most powerful currencies we can have. I titled this The Gentrification of Beauty, and I understand that this language is quite strong, but here is what I recognize. Gentrification isn't merely about imitation. It is about value transfer. A neighborhood gets ignored until someone else, another people group, discovers that it's actually worth something. A style gets dismissed until it shows up on a different body, and suddenly it's a trend. Dark lip liner, fuller lips, curvier shapes, bold color placement. These are things that have lived within Black and brown communities for generations, okay, before they ever got discovered by the mainstream. Cultural exchange is not the problem. Cultural exchange is inevitable, and a lot of the times it's really beautiful, truly. The problem is this. What happens when the people who carried the idea first get left out of the credit, the authority, and the money that soon follows? Because here is the thing. The source and the face are not always the same. Here is the part of this that I didn't expect to actually talk about. Esther initially said that she didn't want to speak on this, that this wasn't her thing. And the more specific reason that she gave was that she didn't want to be perceived as an angry Black woman.
I don't like being scared to say things because you know how easy it is for them to angry Black women us. Like, I'm actually getting tired of constantly being spoken for and being scared to speak because I am a Black woman. And it's not even about being a victim. It's about, this is just how it is. The second you say something, you instantly look disgruntled and angry and all the things. I'm not angry. My life is amazing. God is good.
Sit with that for a second. She had to calculate the risk of being stereotyped before she could even claim credit for the very thing that she popularized. That's not a footnote in this story. That is actually the story. Because cultural ownership was never only about who gets the credit. It's also about who feels safe enough to even ask for it. And the fact that this doesn't actually only apply to her. It applies to a lot of women across race, but especially for Black women who learned early that speaking up cost more than staying quiet. So when they feel the need to say something, we often feel like we have to soften it first. I don't usually say this. I hate even bringing this up. I'm not trying to start anything, right? A disclaimer before the defense. We will actually come back to that specific pattern in next week's conversation because it really does deserve its own space. But I couldn't talk about legitimacy without naming it here in today's conversation, because what Esther weighed before she ever opened her mouth is actually part of what made her claiming her own contribution an act of courage, and not just a clarification. Here is the part that got me though. Somewhere in the middle of all of this, okay, thinking about contribution and recognition, who gets believed, and defending Esther, I actually had to stop and ask myself a harder question. I could see Esther's body of work clearly, okay? I didn't need to see her follower count to convince me that she is actually a craftswoman, okay? I literally just looked at her work and that was enough. But when I turned that same question on myself, I realized that I have been waiting for more followers, more subscribers, more proof, more permission before I allowed myself to fully really in the fact that I am her, okay? I had a double standard, one for her and one for me. And if I'm being honest, if legitimacy comes from contribution, right? From having a level of mastery, from years of study and practice and showing up to the work, then my legitimacy was never supposed to depend on whether an algorithm decided to cooperate that month. So here is where I've landed. Legitimacy is not achieved by recognition. Recognition simply reveals what was already there. The source can often spend months and years in obscurity. The face is who the public eventually notices. And sometimes those are the same person. Sometimes they are not. But the source was still the source long before anyone arrived to witness it. So before you ask whether the world has noticed your work yet, right? I want you to ask whether you have. Have you seen you? And where have you actually been waiting for permission that was never anyone else's to give in the first place?